Hi there, it's me. I've been meaning to make this video for a little while now, but my head has been overflowing with a ridiculous amount of information, so I thought I might just be miles more productive if I scripted this mess. Well, at least a part of it. Welcome to the rewriting of Ruthless. I'm pretty well known for writing, and I guess drawing, a lot of cutesy stuff, but I can assure you this demon tale isn't just for show. Ruthless, if you haven't guessed, is one of my darker stories, but before I overhype it, I might as well go through one of the earliest forms of its origins I can get my hands on. And it's in this little black notebook I found the other day. If we don't count the nonsense spider diagrams, this is the first version of the story, keeping in mind I was probably only 15 or 16 at the time of writing this. A witch had fallen in love with a vampire, but no matter what she did, he wouldn't love her back. So she held him captive under a love spell, and when it accidentally broke, he killed her out of anger. The witch used her last breath to curse the vampire once more, so he could never leave the side of her unrotting body, and her ghost that lingers near, wanting nothing more but the vampire's love. There are later versions, but I didn't quite manage to finish them all. However, I told the story to a friend over Skype messages, and managed to get all the way to the end on the spot. This is on the 21st of October 2015. I won't be reading through it right now, since it'd take a while, but if you don't mind the cringiness of it and the poor writing, I'll upload a reading of it soon, along with a reading of the newer version. The 2015 version of the story was my failed attempt at making the tale somewhat believable, while adding some depth to it. I tried to give a witch a motivation for loving this guy. I tried to explain the magic she used and how the spell just so coincidentally broke, but I didn't quite get to a standard I consider decent now. The thing with one-dimensional characters is they tend to just be tools used to move a story forward, rather than actual people with needs, feelings, weaknesses and strengths. Their actions can be quickly and easily questioned and picked apart. They're unrelatable, or worse, don't stir any emotion in the reader. Sometimes they don't even make sense, or just can't be understood, which in turn makes them very unbelievable. And nothing's more boring than an unbelievable story you can't get lost in. I mean, stories are meant to be some kind of escape from the real world anyway. So this story is apparently next to impossible to summarise, but I'll try to anyway. There's a witch called Ester. She's really, really pretty. So pretty that all the men in the village are fighting over her for her heart. Not her physical heart, but, for her love and affection, all that stuff. She sees a guy walking past the arena she's made, and he doesn't seem to be interested, so she follows him. She finds out he's actually in love with another person called Esmeralda. Esther gets jealous and makes 2 rings. She gives Akubar this ring, who's the guy by the way, and says, "Hey, if you wear one ring and give Esmeralda the other ring, first she'll fall in love with you, and as long as you're wearing the other ring, she won't hate you." Akubar for some reason believes Esther, and gives Esmeralda a ring and puts on a ring on himself. What in fact happens is Esther has made the rings poisonous, which gave her control over Akubar. She tells Akubar to kill Esmeralda, and he does. Esmeralda is now dead, and Esther has full control over Akubar. She takes Akubar back to this fighting arena, which has pretty much just been filled with dead bodies by that point. There's one person left in the arena who is a vampire. Very confidently, Esther throws Akubar into the ring to fight the vampire. The vampire kicks his ass. However, Esther has a thing for Akubar, so she stops the fight by simply telling the vampire to kill himself, and he does. Now why would he ever do that? Well, the poison that Esther put into the ring that allowed her to control Akubar also somehow got into the vampire system, which allowed Esther to control the vampire, so that battle ended very swiftly. Now we have the aftermath. Esther has now, over time, fallen in love with Akubar, and they have killed many people together. Also over time, her magic, or the poison that had been in the ring, had grown a lot weaker. Why the poison had been growing a lot weaker is the venom from the vampire's bite in his system had been battling with the poison and making it weaker and weaker and weaker. Over time, poison became something very close to nothing, and Akubar had full control over his body again. When Akubar woke up next to Esther, and Esther, being naive had this kind of idea in her head that Akubar somehow loved her. Ester, being strange, didn't find how he was moving by himself suspicious at all and went to kiss him, so he snapped her head off. See, it's very, very romantic story, isn't it? After he snaps her head off, her ghost haunts him, because you can never get away from crazy bitches. From crazy witches. When it comes to talking about the realism in this story, the first part of it, how the witch Ester just suddenly happens to have all these men doing whatever she says just because she's pretty, is pretty unbelievable. I mean, maybe she'd have a few dorks following her around, some creeps following her around, but all men? No. It would probably make a bit more sense if she had a gang type of thing. Maybe they were expecting something back from her. Maybe she gave them something back. They could be controlled purely by her magic. She's a witch after all. She might as well use her spells. Maybe one of them was a vampire. And the gang did fight over her a lot. Maybe she even encouraged that. Maybe instead of her just seeing this guy and all of a sudden falling in love with him because of jealousy and curiosity, she spent some time trying to get him to fall in love with her, and in reality it never really worked and she only ended up falling in love with him. Maybe this happened over a longer period of time. No, people don't fall in love in 3 seconds. At least after one conversation or a few, she even pretends to help him out. Help him, get the girl that he's interested in, Esmeralda, for a while. Maybe she murders Esmeralda one day and tries to be some kind of comfort to Akubar. That would definitely be interesting, how she tries to comfort this traumatized guy. If she says something really dumb, like, oh, at least you have me now, and he freaks out about it, because, that's a really creepy thing to say. Maybe him freaking out about it and running away makes Ester use her magic on him and gain control of him. Because he's an obvious favourite of hers, he keeps getting into fights with the other members of the gang, including the vampire guy, who ends up biting him, and Ester kills him because, you don't bite her favourite boy, you never bite the best boy. She gets rid of the other gang members in the night, afraid that they might end up hurting Aku. Wouldn't that be so much more believable? Instead of just having this character that just has a lot of things because she's beautiful. Imagine a girl who is very, very powerful, has a lot of magic. She's very beautiful. She is very good at getting people to be on her side. Very manipulative. She can probably pretty much get anything she wants, right? And maybe she's kind of sadistic and finds entertainment in people suffering. How is someone like that going to find someone who genuinely cares for them? It's going to be pretty tricky. It's going to be really tricky not to find an asshole. Imagine she has this vision of what perfect life is and she's been living it for so long. She has all the guys she wants, she has all the money she wants, she has the looks, she has everything. Imagine it's just not quite that perfect. What if she secretly just wants to be appreciated as a human being? What if she secretly just wants to find the one, and she finds herself caught up in this idea that this one guy that she laid eyes on is the one, or she's interested enough in him and the way he acts that she'll do whatever she can to have him, right? But this idea of having him is fake again, because she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not human enough to be able to satisfy this human desire to want to be loved. So her forcing him to be her partner and all the trouble that causes her, it causes her to have this guy who's a favourite of hers, and her gang gets jealous, and this guy ends up getting in a fight. She ends up losing her gang because she's so worried that they're going to hurt this ideal person she has, who's basically a puppet for her, playing out her version of reality that she wants so desperately to be true, but it's not. She has to be constantly lying to herself, telling herself that this puppet she has now of a person loves her for some reason, and her being so silly doesn't make sure that this puppet stays a puppet. She lets him turn back into what he's meant to be, and what he's meant to be is not her puppet. He was never hers. He got into a fight with the vampire, however her spell worked. It had something to do with his body, and the vampire side of him was far too powerful for her magic that had been controlling Akubar for so long, that the vampire side took over finally, rendering her magic useless. And a part of me believes that she kind of knew that this would happen eventually. I mean, magic can only be so powerful at the end of the day. There has to be a limit somewhere. She must have known that one day his vampire side would render her magic useless. One day he'd become himself again. One day she'd lose control of these strings, and one day he'd probably end up killing her. Her being so lacking this affection that she wanted so badly, she just accepted it, and she kept living through this fantasy life she's made up in her head. And when Akubar wakes up next to her and she goes to kiss him, she never gets to, and he kills her instantly right there, and she just has to accept that. But a part of her can never accept that she's never really loved, and her ghost haunts him because she hasn't finished business. That's the kind of ghost I want it to be. And maybe her ghost is just constantly crying. She could never attain that affection because she was just, the way she was just too cruel. She was too horrible. She was too powerful. She had too much, and she cared too little. Now for the real question, does a story that I've kind of half mapped out, does that tick the boxes that I want it to? Does it conform to my current opinion of what is a decent story? The characters are no longer tools to move the story forward. Ester has this naive desire to be loved. Maybe she even develops this desire once watching how Akubar loves Esmeralda and his devotion to Esmeralda, despite having this beautiful woman in front of him that he could have just by saying yes, and he doesn't. Maybe she wants to have someone feel that towards her, which is why she is so obsessed with this Akubar person. If someone tries to pick Esther's decisions apart, well, the explanation is right there. She wants to live in this fantasy world where she can be cruel and evil, manipulative, have everything she wants, and be loved as well. And she kind of realizes that it's impossible, which is why she has Akubar as a puppet. Is Esther relatable? Maybe her desire to be loved is relatable. And does it stir any emotion in the reader? Well, personally, I think it makes me feel very uneasy to kind of feel bad for someone like this. I mean, she kills people for fun, for enjoyment. And when she was with Akubar, she still continued killing people. Well, with the puppet of Akubar. For me to feel some kind of pity for her is really... it brings up some kind of internal conflict within me. Personally, I'm not sure how it is for other people. And is it believable? I guess it's kind of more believable because you can kind of relate this to real life a little bit more. Instead of Esther just automatically having guys just do whatever she wants, she has an actual gang of shitty people, I guess. Shitty, violent people. So that's more believable. So I guess I should get to work on writing this story, finally. And do something with it, like post it online. Guess I'll be updating this channel with the final story eventually. So I hope you're looking forward to it. Thanks for watching this video. Farewell. Oh, and I'm changing their names because they're kind of bad.